Good morning to all the participants. Welcome back to our day 2 of webinar series on technology roadmap for emerging future. Today's talk is about IoT in smart cities. We all are aware how IoT offers new opportunities for cities to use data to manage traffic, cut pollution, and make better use of infrastructure, and keep citizens safe and clean. It's rapidly growing, and it's important to catch up with these technologies to build a better future. To guide us more today, we have with us as our speaker, Mr. Hari Babu. Mr. Hari Babu is working as Associate Director and HOD for IoT Group at CDAC Bangalore. He has completed MTech from Andhra University in the year 2000, and he is working with CDAC Bangalore since January 2001. He is currently pursuing PhD at IIT Bangalore, and his areas of expertise are in VLSI design, embedded system development, Internet of Things, wireless sensor networks, energy harvesting for WSNs, FPGA designs, cryptography, and cryptanalysis. He has published more than 20 papers in international, conducted 5 national workshops in the area of wireless sensor networks. His research areas include energy-aware routing protocols, advanced in MAC protocols, automation systems for energy sector, security in IoT. He is a senior member of IEE. Welcome, sir, and I hope the participants will have enriching experience hearing you.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Etty, for introducing me. And I think I'll start sharing my screen and start my presentation. I hope the screen is visible. Can any one of you update me?
Yes, sir. It's
Yeah. Okay. Good afternoon to all of you, and thank you very much for Mr. Pradeep and CDAC partner for inviting me to deliver this talk on IoT for smart cities. So I have actually prepared, or I am planning to present in a manner that first I would like to update you on what exactly is IoT that we are talking about briefly for about 10 minutes. Then I will take you to what kind of applications that get advantages from these technologies in the city environment. So first let me introduce you when it started, like the genesis of IoT. So this particular word, Internet of Things, was coined by Kevin Arnstein in 1999, in which he was working in a kind of service delivery, where in which a lot of items, goods being shipped from the godowns and reach another godown and all that. So he was referring to uniquely identifiable objects at that time and their virtual representation in an internet-like kind of structure. So basically, he was actually referring to RFID at that time, saying that once you scan all the goods that is going out of the godown, and if it is reached another distribution point somewhere in another part of the world, so once you enter that RFID details in the internet, you will understand exactly what kind of goods that have been shipped is reached exactly or not, or is there any difference. That's what he was referring to. That is what the initial days definition of IoT is. And then RFID was the enabling technology at that time. But now we are, the IoT has evolved much advanced. And now we are talking about advanced connectivity of various devices, systems, and services. And this can be done using various protocols, and applications are in all the domains across the sectors. So we are going to look at what are they effectively. So then after working for so many years, I was trying to define myself what exactly is an IoT if you have to define from an engineering perspective. So finally, I came out with this definition, wherein which sensors and actuators gets connected to the internet through low power embedded communication modules, either through wide or wireless medium for automated monitoring and control. So this, if you look at the definition, it is quite broader in the sense that it covers both sensors and actuators, which comes onto the internet. Okay, when I say sensors and actuators coming onto the internet means the data from sensors and also control that we are going to through actuators, it happens through internet, and that communication happens through low power embedded communication modules. Why that is being low power embedded communication modules? Since if the now we look at the technology evolution with respect to VLSI, and more chips getting more and more functionality is getting integrated into a small chips now. Uh, to make this IoT to the broader application domains, you need the devices to be smaller in size and actually taking less power for the operations that is intended for. So this low power embedded communication modules is meant for that. So once the system is small and takes less power, it can be adaptable in many applications, either irrespective of you have a power source for it or not. Okay, that is what the advantages of having low power communications modules carrying information of sensors and actuators. Then I said either through wide or wireless medium. Why this option? This wide is more reliable communication and wireless is lossy communication in general. Okay, even though the technologies have been developed to reduce the loss and improve the quality in wireless, still we will not be able to achieve the quality of service that is provided by the wired communications. So IoT still can be enabled with wired communication in wherever it's available, and also through wireless wherever it's not possible. So it covers the total spectrum of communications here, and the purpose is for an automated monitoring and control. So you can monitor certain parameters. Like I will try to take a simple example here. If I have to monitor a data center through a distributed temperature sensors, I will have temperature sensors distributed across the data centers. I will take the data from these temperature sensors. Okay, whenever at certain region the temperature goes high, then what I will do is I will try to reduce the AC temperature settings there so that I can keep the temperature as per the requirements of the data center. So here, if you look at the small example that I have cited, I have sensors like temperature there. I have actuators. The actuator here is the temperature control that has been exercised through AC remote is the actuation here. Okay, that's what the total broader definition of IoT, which has we have been arrived at CDAC. And if you look at the objective of this IoT is anytime connection, any place and anything connection. So with the evolution of mobile and cellular technologies earlier, we achieved all that anytime and any place connection, the first two dimensions, which is shown in X and Y axis, whereas the Z axis has four components for it. One is among the PCs, human to human, not using a PC has been achieved using mobile communications itself. Then human to thing and thing to thing is additional things that get added in the IoT. So with the proliferation of IoT, so everything gets connected in the world. That's what this three-dimension thing represents you. Then before going to look at how this IoT functions and how smart city gets implemented into IoT, I would like to give a brief introduction on internet itself, because we are talking about Internet of Things. So to understand Internet of Things, we should have little understanding on how internet functions. So internet overall network can be classified as two things. One is the network edge. When I say the network edge, it can be the local area network in our office or in our institution. It can be a home area network in our homes, like we have an access point provided by the service provider, and then we will connect multiple devices, either it may be laptop, desktop, or our mobile phones to our access point. Okay, that also forms an home area network. When it comes to offices, you have local area networks. So that part of the overall network is called the network edge, where in which the actual systems, which will actually either take data or serve for the other clients, will reside. Okay. So if you look at the network edge, it consists of the end systems, be it servers or hosts or clients. Generally, they implement client-server model in most of the applications. Some of the applications will follow peer-to-peer model. The classic example of peer-to-peer is your WhatsApp chatting and all that stuff. Client server is your HTTP protocol, where in which web browsing is a classical example of your client server model. So these are the end systems which runs TCP/IP complete internet protocol stack, whereas the routers, switches will not have all 5 layers implemented. They will have only 3 or 2 layers based on the functionality. Switches generally will have is level 2 layer 2 switches, whereas routers are IP routers which are layer 3. So these hosts are the one which implements complete 5 layers, and they are the one which actually either give service an application or use that application. Then another important component is the network core in the internet. What is this network core? We are getting service from a service provider. Let us say I have an access point at my home. This access point is coming through another router which is established somewhere, and the service provider will give me a direct link, physical link through an optical fiber or copper cable from that router to the access point. This access point also is a kind of a simple router here. So all the above which what I said, a home area network and local area network, they are basically routers that have been connected in a mesh form. So if you look at overall internet interconnection, I I have an home area network where in which my access point is connected to a router which is near to my home. That router is effectively connected to another router of that service provider, be it BSNL or ACT or Airtel. There, the router that is connecting my device will get connected to another router which is having more data rates, throughput, service environments, and it gets connected there. Then that router will get connected to a state level service provider router. That are physical systems. When I say router, it's a physical system which is doing the traffic routing functionality. Then the state level provider will have a national level provider connection, and all national level service providers will connect to an international service provider, which of 3 or 4, which I have been shown in the 4 routers, big routers. They will have very high throughput. They provide service to all national level service providers, and they among themselves are interconnected. So if you see, I have 4 or 5 systems in my home, and I have another about 100 systems in my office. And somebody has got in Stanford University a lot of systems in their academic institution. If you look at this kind of connectivity, all these systems are connected, okay, effectively onto the internet. So internet can be called as network of networks, because why it is network of networks? I have a home network, and in my office I have a local area network. Similarly, many local area networks, all these networks gets interconnected to become internet. So every system in the world is connected to every other system in the internet. Okay, that's the biggest advantage. Only thing is you have to route the packets properly to the correct destination as per the requirement. With this introduction to internet, I will take you through the data flow model that IoT, Internet of Things, follows. See, if you see on the left hand side, these are all the things. Every block represents one thing in the sense the end device. So what an end device effectively contains: a sensor or actuator represented by this symbol, and a processing element represented by this symbol, and a communication interface represented by this symbol. So all the things within whatever I've shown in this block will form a local area network using a communication protocol supported by this symbol. Okay, this can be various protocols are possible. Okay, then this second block is a gateway block. What gateway block will contain? Gateway block contain 2 communication elements and a processing element. One communication element is compliant to the communication that the things are supporting, and the other communication is IP, which is internet protocol. So this gateway block gateway system or gateway sub device or whatever way you take it, will form a local area network using the communication protocol supported by the end devices or things. And the data that this gateway receives from all the devices will be depacketized in this block and frame it into IP packets and push it to the backend servers using internet protocol, okay, which is traditional internet network. Okay, once the data is available in the servers, you can actually access that data through mobile to web application using internet. This is the complete flow of data that is happening in an internet of things environment. Okay, the difference between the internet I explained earlier and the internet of things that I explained in this flow is, in the earlier days internet, the devices that were getting connected were being operated by human beings, like laptops, mobiles, desktops, all of them. Wherein which in this arena of Internet of Things, these devices are, most of them will be independent, and they are not being operated by humans. So they are the independent autonomous device connected to getting connected to the internet here, either to share some data of the sensor or to take some action using the actuator connected to it. This is the difference. Okay. So I just briefly give you a thing architecture, what it contains, the end device. So the end device contains a sensor interface, being it for the taking sensor data or giving control to the actuator, and a system on chip, which contains the processing block, which I told in my earlier slide, and also the communication block. If required, some power converting circuits also part of it. All will become part of a single chip called system on chip in this case. And a power block. Why power is any system to work, we need some kind of energy. So most of these devices we are talking here is battery operated device. So most of the cases, this power is going to be a battery that comes with the device. So when we look at the protocols available to realize this local area network, which we talked about in the Internet of Things arena, the most popular protocol is IEEE 802.15.4, which is Wireless Personal Area Network Standard, defined by IEEE, which supports a maximum data rate of 250 kbps. And there are various industry bodies actually adapted this standard and built the network and application layer. One such popular thing is Zigbee, which came up very early and very popular before this Internet of Things has become more popular. There is a concept called wireless sensor networks. So in that scenario, Zigbee is widely used protocol in that scenario. Later, IETF, Internet Engineering Task Force, adapted this and thought like, why can't we make IP packets to route over this 15.4? Then the problem is IP packets of about 1500 bytes each packet, whereas 15.4 supports only 128 bytes. Then they built an adaptation layer to fragment and at the same time on the receiver side defragment. That is the 6LoWPAN protocol, which is defined by IETF. And then we have Bluetooth or Bluetooth Low Energy, which is based on IEEE 802.15.1 is the basic link layer protocol standard for this. And Bluetooth SIG defines the remaining layers, which we are widely, even now, while I am talking to you now, I am using a Bluetooth audio device, which connects to my system through Bluetooth and provides this audio communication between the system. In the system, I am using Zoom app to connect to you. That's a different IP based. Whereas for audio, I am using this Bluetooth now currently. And later, Bluetooth actually penetrated very heavily into the healthcare, and a lot of healthcare applications are Bluetooth. And then Wi-Fi, which is basically meant for replacing wired local area network cables, is a quite popular protocol. Why it is been discussed on IoT thing is, most of the applications, the sensor data are minimal, where we can get from either lightweight protocols like 6LoWPAN, Zigbee, and all of them. Whereas when we have to do a surveillance in cities and all, you need high bandwidth protocols to do that. That is where Wi-Fi is widely used. Wi-Fi enabled surveillance protocols. And then as smart cities being talked about, all other four protocols which has been covered here, their range is limited. Limited in the sense about 100 meters between the device to device. And if smart cities where in which some of the places that the distance between two nodes may be very high. So you cannot put more and more routers so that the device density will become very high. In that scenario, there are a lot of industries started doing research on wireless wide area networks, wherein which the low power, low data rate communication happening in kilometers range and still taking battery powers. So that's what the objective of wireless wide area networks, LP WANs, we popularly known as. So one such protocol very popular is LoRa. Now NB-IoT is coming up through cellular. So these are the protocols further going to enable smart cities. That when we talk about applications, we will also see that. And then once you have these many protocols to relay data, there is no particular protocol has been standardized, okay, by anybody. And people have built devices using different stacks which they are comfortable with. And for every application, there's no single protocol that is suiting. So healthcare, I said Bluetooth is penetrated. Similarly, for basic sensing and actuation, 15.4 based Zigbee 6LoWPAN are widely being used, and the devices has come up with that. And some of the smart city applications like water distribution and LoRa devices have came into picture. So with all that, there is a concept of standardization missing in this. So this IoT platform is a middleware layer wherein which it separates basic connectivity of the devices and built a standard interface for the application developers. Okay, so the it provides a standard interface for the application developers such that application developer doesn't need to worry much on what kind of devices he is using, because he doesn't need to have a full stack knowledge on sensor, how sensor gets interfaced and all that stuff. That's where these particular platforms will provide a uniform interface for the application developers such that it becomes easy for the application developers to develop IoT applications. That's the main advantage. If you look at various popular IoT platforms that are available in the market are Amazon Web Services, AWS, Google Cloud, Microsoft Azure, and so many other things which is listed here. And if you practically see, so many companies are trying to build their own platforms because here also there is no standardization exactly. They wanted to build their platform to suit their application needs. That's what it is currently going on in the IoT arena. And a little on what we have done in this is we have developed systems and protocol stacks that connects physical world to the cyber world. If whatever the total data flow model that I have covered as part of IoT, CDAC has done all that development. We have, if you see the left-hand side, we have UV Sense, which is a sensor module consisting of 6 sensors that are quite frequently and widely used. Their temperature, relative humidity, light intensity. We have barometric pressure, proximity detection, and buzzer on it. And next set of devices are all communication modules. If you see, the first one is UV mode, which is IEEE 802.15.4 compliant, which is enabled with both Zigbee and 6LoWPAN. Then we have Bluetooth Low Energy mode, we have Wi-Fi mode, we have LoRa mode. This sensor can be plugged in into any of these communication modules, and we can form a local area network, I said, in the data flow model. And then this network of devices, either by 15.4 or Bluetooth, will actually send data wirelessly to the gateway. This is WINGS is a multi-protocol gateway supporting all these communication standards on a single system. And then once the data is available on gateway actually runs RESTful APIs to push data onto the HTTP servers, and also it actually can also can use cloud APIs to push data onto the cloud. Once data is available in either servers or cloud, you can run various analytics and disseminate information through IP once again to mobiles, laptops based on HTTP application or web mobile application. And also you can send back decisions through gateway and the systems to take any action into the field. So CDAC has developed the whole systems ingeniously and also protocol stacks and application layer environment to develop complete IoT solution by solution. And then look at the applications that IoT supports. There is no limit because if any of the domain, agriculture, let us take, here you have to see what can be sensed and what kind of analytics to be done to arrive at certain problems to be solved, which are being faced by agricultural people like farmers and all that. Okay, one such system that we have developed is and the disease forewarning system in groundnut fields. Okay, so here we have deployed various 6LoWPAN based nodes which measure 5 parameters, and the data of these 5 parameters will be sent to a centralized server at CDAC Hyderabad through gateway in the field, and all these modes and gateways are running by solar there as a power source. Once data reaches our server, we are analyzing and sending back the information to the farmer about the possible occurrence of pest attack on his field. Okay, the advantage here the farmer is getting is he doesn't need to worry about periodic treating of his field with the pesticide, and he gets an advantage that based on information he can apply pesticide such that the number of treatments in a crop cycle reduces drastically. That's the advantage farmer is getting with respect to that. And another advantage is the yield has gone up by introducing these technologies into the field, and also the investment for the farmer has come down. That's what we proved as part of it. And because our topic is now smart cities, I will just move to what are the things that we need to look at in smart cities. How to enable IoT in smart cities, I will cover up quickly. Smart cities definitely consist of smart buildings. First, let us see what kind of systems that can enable smart buildings for better experience and reduce the operating cost. This is the basic objective of any technology adaptation in any of the application. So one is smart lighting system. What is smart lighting system? See, current days, if you see in offices, homes are fine because we are going to pay bill. We will take care to use the lighting optimally. Wherever we sit, we switch on light there. Wherever we are going out, we switch off. When it comes to offices, we will not have similar care like the homes exactly. Why? Because it is not directly going from our pocket is one thing, and maybe second thing is people got used to that way. They never switch off the lights. They simply go off. Later it is somebody, they feel like it's somebody's responsibility to do that. Okay, that is the in that scenario what happens here is we can actually have lights enabled with a sensor called PIR, passive infrared sensors. Those detect the person availability and bring up lights accordingly. So this will happen whenever there is a person enters the room, lights will come up. As long as he is there, the lights will be on. The only problem that we foresee in this kind of sensing is if the person is stable for some time, the sensor will detect as absence and switches off because it works on the principle that the change in IR energy in the environment. So in that scenario, what we need to do is we have also further enabled that with occupancy prediction. The data based on the data that is being coming from the sensors, we build a hidden Markov model to predict how that particular office is getting occupied. So the overall system, the smart lighting system, is controlled by two things. One is the sensor and the occupancy prediction that has been detected by artificial intelligence, and lighting has been controlled accordingly. With this, we have deployed solutions in some of the CDAC buildings and the Ministry of Electronics office. We observed about 70% savings compared to traditional tube light based environment by adapting this kind of technology. And the advantages that we get is human intervention has been reduced and the overall energy consumption has come down drastically with this. And accordingly, we started building a smart home energy network. What exactly smart home energy network is? We have talked about lighting, that is one aspect. Second one is there are a lot of other electrical appliances at home or at buildings. So how to enable them, how to make them available on internet, virtualize them. That's where we built smart plugs and sockets such that they are IP enabled and their virtual representation can be made available in internet. Once you have that virtual representation available, the status of those appliances also is coming to onto the internet. Then what will happen in this case is whenever as we move forward, India is going towards smart grid implementation. In the smart grid implementation, in the current scenario in India, what happens? We have only one distribution company supplying us the electricity. As the smart grid has been once India adopts the smart grid, what will happen is you will have multiple vendors who are ready to provide you the energy. So you can choose among the lowest cost vendors. And also when the load really goes up, what will happen is demand based pricing is going to come into picture. In that case, when the demand is so high, your unit price will go up. So in that scenario, these kind of systems will enable you to control your consumption intelligently. Okay, that's what the advantage of the smart home network. And then we looked at the commercial buildings and also identified issues with the existing fire detection systems. Most of these smoke detectors detect the smoldering fires early, whereas non-smoldering fires will not be detected in a quicker manner. So we built a device which actually detects all smoldering and non-smoldering fires at equal time. And once in case of any fire accident, first has to be prevented. So we actually looked at the various history of these fire accidents and identified that more than 90% of the fire accidents are happening through short circuits. Even though there are protective relays, short circuits are being happening because some of the reasons are when the protective relay is going to be off condition, it creates an arc which is causing the fire in the buildings. So we actually developed an intelligent protective relay which doesn't have a mechanical element to on and off and create arc. It is purely based on solid state on and off condition. And this particular device also continuously monitors for current and load voltage fluctuations, and a lot of analytics can be derived from it. So that is one prevention system we did. And another important possible cause of fire accidents are gas leakage. We have built a Wi-Fi enabled system to detect the gas in the pantry areas. So by these two devices, we are trying to prevent most of the fire accidents. Even though it happens, then this system actually locates the fire in the building with respect to all other people, and it actually supports a graded evacuation compared to the traditional one, giving alarm and creating panic situations such that stampedes and all are happening. We don't want that to happen. In that scenario, this solution will enable a graded kind of evacuation without creating panic condition in the building, because the fire location is known here, fire spreading can be analyzed here. That's what the advantage of this solution that has been built for the buildings. And other smart building solutions developed by our CDAC Chennai Center are smart kitchen cabinet. This is basically gives you the grocery list based on their usage, and also if required you can even send this list to uh, a kind of supermarket directly, and that guy will deliver you automatically. And the smart kitchen cabinet now enabled with nutritional aware cooking recipes and all. The system will suggest you what kind of when you take out some grocery item like some dal or something, it tell you what are the nutritional values. And finally, out of the product that you are going to come out of the cooking, it will tell you the complete nutritional values. That's the advantage of this solution. Then the second one is smart mirrors, which are actually initially built to look at the various emotions of the person. Right now, later we found an application on saying that in most of the clothes stores, trial is going to be physical. We will wear and see how that dress looks on us and how shirt looks on us, all trousers will look on us. Whereas using the smart mirror, by simply keeping the shirt in front of you, this mirror will show you how you look once you wear it. So that kind of trials has been made easy. And then another is smart bed, which is tells you what kind of good sleep based on load cell it has been developed. It tells you what kind of good sleep you are going, any sleep abnormalities are there. All the details this smart bed will provide. This is being tested in one of the laboratories in Chennai and may come into field onto the sleep labs. And then intelligent AC control has been implemented based on the temperature that you need, based on your thermal comfort level. You can feed the system. System will control the overall environment accordingly. This is what intelligent AC control system has been developed. And another system that we have developed for the building is airport terminal monitoring system. This basically monitors for temperature, relative humidity, CO2, and also light intensity, energy units like IUAP. This is a single device that gives you energy as environmental parameters. So this is basically to develop to basically monitor the airport terminals and also see that the architecture that the buildings are following is optimal currently, or you can enhance the building architecture such that the energy consumption can be reduced and also the user experience can be improved. We have developed the device at CDAC, whereas IIT Roorkee is doing the analytics part of it with respect to the building architectures here. And then coming to the buildings we covered, then what else the city contains in a smart city? So one is smart waste management, which contains smart garbage bins, smart manhole monitoring devices, and all of them. Then smart water distribution systems. I am going to explain further in my coming slides what it is. Then smart postal services, what are they, will be covered. And then in electrical distributions, how do you enable IoT? How do you enable electrical distribution systems with IoT so that you can provide better service for the citizens of a city? And then smart transportation systems. In this, basically, the major components are intelligence and adaptive traffic control signal controller. That is based on the density, the signal will get controlled. So how do you monitor density using inductive loops and all that is part of this system. And then intelligent parking management system. This particular system, sensor enabled system, will provide you the number of slots empty in advance, and accordingly you can and another feature it provides is while starting at home itself you can look at online, if you are going to a market, in that market parking area how many slots are being available, and even you can block it. Suppose let us say it takes about 20 minutes for you to reach that particular area, you can block from 20 minutes onwards a parking lot, book and go. And this system also automatically guides you to the either vacant slot or your booked slot. That are the features of this intelligent parking management system. And advanced traveler information system is this basically provides you in a city environment. There are multi models of transport, be it metro, be it city buses, local rail transports, and all of them. So once you, if you want to travel from one place to the another place, Google is providing, but CDAC also in parallel developed this system such that you can actually select based on the lowest price or quickest time. That's what the information it provides. And then we have emergency vehicle prioritization. This actually gives a framework of emergency vehicles being parked at discrete locations in cities such that the quicker service can be offered. Then we have environmental monitoring with respect to pollution, which also will be covered in the coming slides. And then we have city surveillance. This is becoming more and more important because of various unwanted things that is being happening in cities as the population is increasing. So city surveillance will become a critical part of it. So Wi-Fi, as I said in my earlier, when I am covering Wi-Fi has become like a default standard for this surveillance cameras. And then here, there are a lot of, most of the cities are now deployed these cameras, but what is that remaining is, uh, you should be able to build analytics to detect any, if a person is carrying any weapons, if any criminal suspects are part of the group that is in the captured videos, and all that is, a lot of research is going on with respect to image processing and video processing. This is the area some of the people are highly working. And then I said smart emergency services, where actually dynamic positioning of the emergency vehicles and the coordination of essential services in disaster situation. All this will become very important in case of smart cities. And then some of the things I will try to cover a little in depth. One is smart water distribution system. If you see in any cities, what will happen is, from a reservoirs that are on rivers, water will be transported to a water treatment plant, which is quite far from city, there in which the water will be treated for the improvement of quality and make it potable. From there, most of the cities will have ground level storage reservoirs. Water will be pumped there. From ground level, there will be multiple elevated level storage reservoirs where water will be serviced to the customer through elevated level storage reservoirs. So in this, where and all you can include IoT to improve smartness here. At hand house, we can have smart water meters. The smart water meters, like energy meters, this will tell you in a real time what is the water consumed by you, what is the billing, etc. And in case if you want to disconnect remotely, this system will have the provision to disconnect. That's what the smart water distribution is. And remotely controllable automated valves is basically to control the distribution by the water authorities. They remotely sitting in an office instead of going physically. That's the advantage. Then we need to look at each elevated service reservoir, what is the quality of water being sent to the consumers. So water quality stations will become handy here, where it provides information to the consumers what kind of quality of water is being received and using every day. So through a mobile app and web app, you will be able to see that. And next important thing is water level indicators for the authorities for their proper planning and all is required. And overall, what will happen is, this particular system that is being implemented by CDAC will give you complete water table to the authorities. From reservoirs, how many liters have been pumped in a day, and what is the consumption at combined the consume of by all consumers. If there any loss, where it is getting lost, all that leakage means where it is getting leaked, all the details the system will provide automatically. That's the advantage of smart integrating IoT technologies to water distribution. This is the test bed that we have at CDAC, and we have implemented the total solution with our own indigenous systems design. Sensors only being bought out. We are now looking at building sensors also, so that total indigenization happens for the water distribution systems. And then portable weather monitoring stations are useful to actually weather forecasting in a minute level. And this is actually a requirement from IIT Roorkee, saying that they want to look at their campus environment. So we built about 10 devices and supplied to them. They are doing various analytics on using the data by them. Similarly, by putting such devices across the city, you can actually do a better weather forecasting, better weather forecasting model locally, and give a good weather report to the citizens. And then we have built an outdoor air pollution monitoring system as per the Central Pollution Board guidelines. And this system is having inbuilt calibration, and this gives all these gases data, and also gives saying that whether your air quality is good, poor, or very severe. Accordingly, the civic authorities can take certain calls with respect to traffic diversion and also that to improve the air quality in that location for a better livability. And then for postal services, we have built a smart post kiosk, which is basically an automated teller machine for the registered and speed post articles. Because if you see, some of the things are still depending on register post and speed post. So many articles are being done in India every day, and post offices working hours are limited, and also lot of queues we are seeing it. So to enable better service by the postal department, they said they want such kind of system. Then we have designed and developed and deployed one in Bangalore. Right now, POC is going on. We are going to deploy 1,000 more across this country so that speed and register posts will become automated and make it available 24 by 7 to the customers. Whereas another advantage for customers is they can enter to and from address on a website and get a token and come and post in this kiosk. Or even they can use a mobile app to enter to and from address to get that token, and then token can be entered into the kiosk to fetch all the details and you can simply post. This kiosk also is integrated with UPI based payment, so you can do the payment e-payment, and to that level the system has been automated. The service is getting improved from the postal department too. And then the trend of connected cars, showing that to avoid accidents and also to know so many things. There are a protocol called 802.11p, I think DSRC it's called. There are roadside units already, onboard units. So in that way the overall cars gets connected to one, and the basic objective is to avoid accidents and all that. These systems have been built. And then connected health is becoming a general scenario in case of cities. This helps in many things. One is uh, even after the post operation also you can be at your home with remote monitoring through Bluetooth enabled health sensors. So Bluetooth enabled ECGs, Bluetooth enabled thermometers, Bluetooth enabled EEGs, and all that are being built now. And the data can be made available anywhere to the doctors so that you can get advice through mobile and or any other form. And now we are looking at smart grid, I said, whereas the electrical infrastructure is getting merged with information infrastructure through IoT, where you will get data from everywhere so that you will have more controllable generation, transmission and distribution across the grid. That's what smart grid we are talking about. All that is fine. We have talked about so many applications that IoT can enable with better advantages and all. If you see in reality, the deployments are not as quick as I expected. The reason being is the characteristics of IoT device. If you see, they are having very small processing engine, and the devices are mostly limited by processing power, energy, and also memory. So in that scenario, enabling with security will become a real problem. If you have to use TLS kind of protocol for enabling the security, you don't have resources to do that. That is one problem that we have. So in that scenario, better to be people are doing research on what kind of security algorithms will suit these devices. So as the security implementation improves further, the deployment can be seen. Okay, so these are the various threats that is possible, which has to be addressed in IoT security concerns. Once all that done, we can see the proliferation of IoT in smart cities in a quicker manner. Still, there are a lot of tenders coming up for smart meters, smart energy meters, and water distribution that is being happening. That's a good sign in India. And further proliferation needs to happen, and it will happen. I will stop here, and I want to thank all of you for your patient listening. If any questions, I'm ready to answer now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir, for the question answer. Chat is enabled, so you can write
Okay.
your question in chat, and sir will answer. Sir, one question some Kaushik Mondal has asked: how will we tackle the failure of Wi-Fi device of our home through which all our IoT-enabled switches devices are connected? Once that is goes down, all the devices will not work as we have already removed the electromechanical process. Please guide.
Yes, yes, I totally agree with you. Depending on the quality of service being offered by the service providers now, there are two ways to be addressed. The most important way is India should have a policy with respect to the quality of service being offered by the service providers and make sure like they will be fined in case of service failure. In that scenario, what will happen is they will come up with a redundant infrastructure wherein which you get service most of the times. So this some kind of policy decisions has to come from government to make sure like they will be fine, they will have heavy fines in case of failure of the service. So that aspect should come into picture. I think the government of India is looking at that, and also they are looking at Wi-Fi being shared from other neighboring people also, because they have come up with a model wherein which all the people who wants to offer Wi-Fi as a service can actually register, and whoever is getting this service online also can register. Okay, so there will be a mechanism of financial sharing. If that becomes reality, you will have multiple networks coming to you, and whichever is available, whichever is more quality of the signal is better, you can get connected to and pay accordingly. Troy is working towards it.
Okay, sir. Next question from Nidhi Gopal.
Yeah.
She's asking how secure is IoT in agriculture applications?
Yeah, security wise, unless as long as you don't have any automated actuators in agriculture, if you only take the data and an actual action done by human being, there is no security being expected now. Suppose if you are also have an automated pesticides dispenser, then the problem might start. Okay, in that case, you need to have a strong security mechanism implemented before doing that automation. Right now, whatever we have done is the data comes to the server and server analyzes and sends message to the farmer mobile in local language saying that he has to apply pesticide. So there is no harm in this kind of controlled environment. Whereas if we have a automated pesticide dispensers, then problem might happen. So that time you need to actually implement end-to-end security without any foolproof security. That's what.
Okay, so next question George Luis Sambo. He's asking about one of the problems discussed in the interconnection of objects of the on the internet, whether in the smart cities or smart homes, is the fear of cyber attacks. Are there minimal standards to reduce the vulnerability to the system?
Yeah, right now, uh, people are at various countries are actually working on standardizing this IoT security as such. Even from Indian side, through Bureau of Indian Standards, we have proposed a standard. STQC India has proposed a standard for IoT device as well as communication security, and that standard is being discussed in all ISO meetings. Maybe in a couple of months that there may be a concurrence among the countries are being participated in the standard discussion. Then you will have a reference standard at least for the security of devices, which has to be implemented when you actually deploy in the houses or buildings or in the cities. That is happening now.
Next question again from Nidhi Gopal. Can we monitor real-time readings of pH, humidity of plants using IoT?
Possible. IoT is meant for exactly real time in the sense. See, real time has a meaning of what is the delay of information can happen. We can say near real time you can monitor. Like the packet delays is only the delay that is there. Uh, Overall, see, the sensor can sense and transmit to the application that one is viewing this data. That may be some few microseconds. Only that is the difference between the real data capturing and real data being displayed. Otherwise, it can be called as a near real time data. You can always monitor.
Next question, sir, again from the Kaushik Mandal. Sir, how will we integrate 2-3 Wi-Fi devices in single IoT device? If 2-3 people share the Wi-Fi, so many wrong things may happen. Security-wise, is it viable?
See, I am not saying this is going to be a service model by a third party platform like Telecom Regulatory Authority of India will bring a platform wherein which the service providers will register on it, whereas service takers also will register on it, so that that platform will manage which service is good for you at that time, and accordingly service is provided. Wherein which when it comes to security and all, those access points which are offering security would have been always already enabled with TLS protocol. Okay, even your communication from your application side, if you use HTTPS, okay, that is secured now. Okay, so we always suggest to use the TLS based communication on internet or Wi-Fi, such that the data is secured irrespective of the channel that you use. In that way, you can tackle the security issue.
Next question from Ashish Kumar. How secure is IoT in water system local place?
See, one is when we talk about overall devices being secure, we need a legal framework for it. Right now, because devices being very small in size, anybody can remove and take it there. Apart from that, physical security, data security can be enabled in these systems. That's not a problem. Only issue with IoT is physical device security. Somebody can simply remove and take it out. How to address that is within the purview of legal framework of that country. That some kind of like if in the case of railways, if somebody touches the railways properties, it is going to be a severe crime. If that similar legal framework, if they bring in, then you can actually at least say that the devices are secure physically. That's all.
No more question.
Yeah.
Right now.
So I thank all the participants for their patient listening. I thank you, Pradeep, and also Director Aditya for giving me this opportunity. And thanks a lot. I hope I can leave Pradeep now.
Thank you, sir. Over to Yati.
Thank you so much, sir, for such an amazing session. I'm sure the participants are going to take a lot back with them. And thank you to all the participants also for joining us. Before signing off, may I also please add that CDAC Patna will be starting 2 of the courses under ACTS PG Diploma NSQF Level 8 courses running across the nation. The courses are online PG Diploma in AI and PG Diploma in IoT. Registrations are open and you can visit acts.cdac.in for more details. So thank you, sir, for an amazing session. So now we'll be closing.